Last week, I released a video on the iron fist of socialism and the evil that is behind socialism and the left that is pushing so adamantly for it. It is a mechanism of control that will subjugate everybody underneath it. That is what socialism is designed to do, is pure subjugation. But on part of that, why is socialism being so attractive? What is it about socialism that attracts particularly the younger generation? Those who are recently getting out of high school, getting into college, trying to start a career. What is it that it makes so attractive to them? We need to take a serious look at why it is that particularly today's youth is being driven towards that. We look at Mondani in New York and the popularity that he is gaining, and that he just might be the mayor of New York. We look at what AOC is doing and her push towards socialism. Why is that becoming so popular? I mean, it's becoming more popular amongst the left, but even amongst the left, people should know and understand the dangers of socialism. But yet we still have the youth that is seeing that as a solution to their problems. What's the driver behind that? What is making socialism so popular? Many will look at the indoctrination within the universities and university professors pushing that liberalism, that wokeness, and saying we got to be like these other countries. We got to be like Norway. We got to be like Sweden. We got to be like Finland. Others will say that the youth are just trying to rebel from their parents and conservatism. I don't think it's either one of those. I think those are factors that point them in a direction, but down underneath the surface of that skin, what is really causing that drive? And I believe, and I'm pretty sure that drive is coming from an economic situation. It is sheer economics that is pushing them towards that. Our youth today have a problem that is not solvable by themselves. If we look at the median household income right now, and I want to point out a few things here. Right now, looking at the World Population Review, they go through and list out the median household income from every state in the union. The average income for a single person earner is right around $41,000. But you look at this state by state, Mississippi being one of the worst, clear down at $27,000. But you look at the average income for a single person earner, and it's typically between $35,000 and $40,000. A two household income, that means two earners, mother and father are both working full time. Average income is only $87,000 nationwide, and again, somewhere between $65,000 and $75,000 is the average income for a household. The average household income hasn't changed in like 20 years or longer. Even with the cost of living going up exponentially, the average income is still staying the same. The problem is the dollar is buying less. Now, all the economic geniuses out there that are out there protesting and getting in front of governors like Newsom are saying, well, let's just increase the minimum wage. Let's force a $15 an hour minimum wage, then a $20 or a $25 an hour minimum wage. Everybody on the bottom is saying, well, if we can't survive out here, just give us more money. That is economic stupidity, because that is not going to solve the problem. Just because they pay you more does not mean that your dollar is going to buy more. That is not economics, as much as they would love to believe that that is the easiest and simplest solution to this type of a problem. Anytime that you increase the minimum wage and you increase the costs of an employer, they are going to increase the costs of their product equally. And so your dollar still buys the same amount. You could get paid $20 an hour, but your dollar is still going to buy the same amount of food, cover the same bills as those costs, the cost of the food, the cost of your groceries, are going to increase right along with those wages increasing. So the dollar stays the same. And a lot of people are like, well, how is that possible? Because my utility bills are going to be the same. It filters through all of that as the costs increase. Everybody has to go out there and buy food. Everybody has to pay rent. Everybody has to pay a mortgage. Everybody has to pay gas. And so when their expenses go up, they increase the expenses of the product that they are producing. That is just the way it works. What the dollar is able to pay for drops significantly. When your eggs go from $2.50 a dozen to over $5.50 a dozen, when your gas prices go from $3 a gallon to $6 a gallon, when the fast food that you go out goes from $9 a burger to $15, $20 for a simple burger, those are significant cost increases. When going to the movies goes from a $10 ticket to go to the movies to $18 ticket to go to the movies. It all goes around. And as each individual business's costs increase, as the real estate agent's cost of living increases, where what they have to buy increases, where the workers at the power plant and their cost of living goes up, when the workers at out the oil rigs and the oil refiners and their cost of living goes up, the employers know that the cost of living goes up, and so they are relentlessly bugged and pushed by their employees to give them raises. And so the employers, in order to keep good employees, will start handing out raises. But in order to cover those raises, they will increase the cost of their goods to the users. So the oil goes up, the fast food prices go up, the power goes up, your grocery bills go up, what the farmer sells his products for to the distributors goes up. Everything goes up across the board as those costs increase. As you increase those minimum wages or anything else, those prices all increase, everything. And so as much as you'd like to think that raise that you just received or the minimum wage that just went up is going to solve your economic problems, it is not. It is only going to increase the problem. It's going to increase the inflation that we have. The only way to get salaries to cover expenses and to get a minimum wage to cover expenses is to increase what the individual dollar can pay for. The value in and of itself as a commodity, the value of the dollar has to be able to buy more with less. That is the only way that the economics work. So when you have problems like this, where the median income, household income hasn't increased in 20 years, and then you add to that the cost of living. Average rent price in the United States right now is $2,100. The average income is between $3,000 and $4,000 a month. How is a single earner going to pay a $2,000 a month or $2,200 a month rent cost on their own when they're only making $3,000 or $3,500 a month? And then they have to go and pay for food, several $100s a month. They have taxes that are getting taken out and FICA that's getting taken out of their paychecks. They have to pay for gas, a cell phone, utility bills. All these other expenses have to come out. And what do they end up with at the end of the month? They're usually negative. And they're ending up having to put living expenses on credit cards. That is where they're just going to simply spiral out of control because there's no way to pay off those credit cards. They're going to think that, well, I'm going to get a raise. I'm going to do better next year or the following year, and then I'm going to be able to pay off those credit cards. But yet when that year comes around, they're going to find out their credit card's going higher and higher and higher, and all of a sudden they got $20,000 in debt because they've been supplementing their income for the last 2 years by several $100s per month. Credit card agencies love this because they're making bank off of poorer people. Now you got businesses coming out that are buy now, pay later, and being able to finance anything outside of the credit card industry. You got payday loan companies popping up on every street corner. If you can't pay your bills, come get a payday loan from us. And those interest rates are 15, 25, 30% interest rates. How is an individual who already cannot cover monthly expenses going to cover additional payments on a loan they just received at 25, 30% interest? This is what is pushing the youth towards socialism. They're saying we cannot fix this problem. It is inherently unfeasible for us to go out after high school, after college, and survive in public. Survive out there. What many are doing is they're getting a couple of roommates. This is what my own children have done, is they go out and they find a 2-bedroom or 3-bedroom apartment, and they go out and get a couple of roommates. And between the three of them, they split the cost. So they're paying $900 a month instead of $2,000 or $2,400 a month on rent. And so they're surviving with roommates, and they all compile and pitch in on food, on utility bills. And that's the only way they're finding that they can survive. Which is why when you look at the median household income for 2 earners, you're getting up to that $65,000, $75,000 a year. And now you're seeing that people are then just barely able to survive. The 2 household income is become a necessity. Whereas if you look back 10, 15, 20 years ago, mom could stay home and take care of the kids. The kids had somebody at home that they could depend on being there. And there's a lot of feminists out there think, well, why are you sticking mom at the house? Why is she going to do that? Because it's the children. The children are the priority, they're the importance. If you grow up without parents there very often, rules, regulations, homework, all that becomes less. Society deteriorates when a parent is not there to be there for the children at all times of the day. You will see a notable difference between those who do well as adults because they had a parent at home and those who do less well when they did not have a parent at home or had a single parent home. It's just the way it works. Children need that. They need mom or dad, if mom's the income earner, it doesn't matter. They need somebody at home that is there for them. So the 2 household income is now required and not just simple extra income. Where it used to be that a single household or a single person could support the entire family. It's just the average home cannot do that anymore. Now you look at the housing prices that are out there. The average mortgage nowadays, and this is according to Redfin News, is $2,800 a month. Almost equal that of rent, but maybe just slightly more. Obviously, owning a home is significantly better than renting because now you're putting money away and actually gaining equity within that home. But now that we have the Fed that is refusing to drop interest rates, those monthly mortgage payments are getting worse and harder for the general population to be able to cover. They can't buy as much with it because the interest rates are higher. Well, the median cost of a single family residence, if you look across the nation, Alabama's $300,000, Hawaii's upwards of $1 million, Indiana's $300,000, Iowa's $250,000. For an average home here in Utah, we're up at $600,000. Washington, D.C. is $1.4 million for an average home. I remember, because I was a home builder for a number of years, that I could build a 3,000, 4,000, 5,000 square foot house and sell it for $300,000, $400,000, $500,000. You're looking at the market right now, and that same 3,000 square foot house is now selling for $600,000. That 5,000, 6,000 square foot house is now selling for well over $1 million. That was not $1 million home for the longest period of time. When I was buying my first homes, and I was looking at a 4,000 or 5,000 square foot house, that was not $1 million house. So you can see that the buying power of the dollar is significantly decreased. And again, economic geniuses out there want to just give me a raise. Let's increase the minimum wage. That makes the problem worse because across the board, it filters around and employers just increase the cost of goods. And your dollar will buy the same, if not less, than it did before. We need a solution to the problem because this problem is what is pushing our youth towards socialism. It is not fair out there. We cannot survive. We cannot exist. If you look at the average age of a first-time home buyer, 10 years ago, the average age of a first-time home buyer, a couple, was probably around 28 years old, between 28 and 30 years old. The average age of a first-time home buyer is now 38. 38, almost 40. To become a first-time home buyer. That means for the first 15 to 18 years of them being outside of college, they're renters, or outside of high school. They are renters. So the rental market is huge, but that's not getting anybody anything because the rent prices are almost just as high as the mortgage prices. But with interest rates as high as they are and the Fed that's refusing to drop them, it's just making the problem worse. So now you have the rising generation that's saying, we need to redistribute wealth because it doesn't matter what I do, I can't make enough money to survive. It's impossible for me to go out there and survive on my own. I have to have several incomes within the home or else this is not going to survive. And this is where you look at these same numbers here where you're getting a 3 household income, 4 household income, where they're getting other people to come in and live with them, like the youth are, roommates, maybe a second family or something like that, in order to survive, to just sheer survive and have a house over their head. Why is that necessary? And I'll tell you right now what caused this problem. Inflation killed the United States during Biden, just absolutely killed us. And it started clear back in Obama. And obviously, the first term of Trump kind of moderated a little bit, but there was still a Congress that was out of control during the first term of Trump. So there was still too much spending going on during that first term, particularly because of COVID, where the government was just handing out money, just insane amounts of money to keep businesses alive. Stupid amounts of money were going out just to keep businesses alive during COVID. And the COVID shutdown just killed us. And we're still recovering from that with the amount of debt that it put on our nation and the amount of handouts that it put on our nation. Biden and Obama both printed insane amounts of money. They did not have the budget approvals by Congress to go out and spend a ton of money, so they just printed it. So there's several factors that go into just killing the value of the U.S. dollar. That is printing money at insane rates, which is what Biden did, and Obama did a little bit of it, but Biden was printing insane amounts of money. It's having a trade deficit with foreign countries. And a lot of people are looking at the Trump tariffs saying, you're going to kill our economy, you're going to kill us, you're going to bankrupt the nation, you're insane. And they're just yelling and screaming at him for doing what he's doing. He is saving your bacon. He is saving your economic power. He is giving you the ability to be able to buy a home by putting on those tariffs. Because the value of the dollar, what you can buy with it, increases when the trade balance between us and other nations are more equal, more fair. Because we can then sell to other countries and bring in outside capital. So it's not just the capital within the United States just floating around and just going from hand to hand to hand, just sharing the same coffer, is bringing outside money in, which is what tariffs are doing. That increases the economy. That increases our buying power because it's outside money coming in. When you're a state like, let's take Utah, for example, and Utah depends a lot on tourism. We have a heavy ski industry, and that's what boosts us. We obviously have our own economy where we buy and sell amongst each other, and there's other businesses that bring income into the state. But the big thing is tourism. So we bring outside money, those who travel from around the country, around the world, into Utah to spend money here because of that tourism. That increases the cash that exists within the state. And then that cash can then stay here within the state and increases the living conditions of everybody within the state, not just the ski resorts, not just the restaurants and hotels, because that money then filters around, flows around. And the value of our buying power increases because we have more money that's coming in from outside. It's not fake money. It's not printed money. It's not overly inflated money. It's real money that's coming in, that's earned. That is the difference. That is why tariffs work. That is what's going to increase the value of our buying power. Is when we can sell our products to other nations at equal terms and bring in outside money within the United States. That increases our economy, which increases the buying power of the dollar, which will make it so that your dollar will buy more food, pay more gas, because the value of the dollar itself is higher. That is one way to fix a problem, is the tariffs. And it's not the tariffs themselves that are fixing the problem, it's the tariffs are forcing other nations to drop their tariffs so we can sell to other nations on an equal basis so that the cash flow can then come into the country. It's not the cash flow from the tariffs that increases the economy, that's the incentive. What increases the economy is us as importers, as people that bring in product, goods, and services from outside the country. We're forced to look elsewhere to bring in those goods and services, or we're forced to negotiate harder with those outside providers to bring our costs down, which forces those other nations to look at their costs and yell at their own government to say, we can't afford this. Our margins are slim enough and and they're trying to get us to drop our margins even further. Or they're just not buying from us at all because they have to find a cheaper supplier because of the tariffs. And so they go to their officials and say, you need to fix this. And so the presidents and administrators of those other countries then go to Trump and say, okay, we're going to drop our tariffs. That's all he wants, is for them to drop their tariffs, and then we can drop our tariffs. It's reciprocal tariffs. And the second they drop their tariffs, all of a sudden, all our companies can now sell into those nations at an equal playing field as companies within those nations. And that's why those nations don't want to drop their tariffs, because they do not want an equal playing field, because they know that the U.S. ingenuity, U.S. quality products are going to flood their nations and not give them the advantage. And the other side of that is those nations are looking at how much money they're making from tariffs from products coming in from the U.S. That's actually become a line item within their budgets, that they have that income coming in from U.S. products that they don't have to tax their own people on. They're actually balancing their budgets based off of money they're getting from tariffs from us. And they don't want to let go of that income. They don't want to let go of that money. But we're more powerful, we're bigger than they are, and we're going to force them to bring down their tariffs so that we can now sell our products equally around the world and have fair competition. Fair competition, capitalism, always increases everybody's living abilities and living conditions and the power of their money, which is going to force these other nations to become more capitalistic and less socialistic. Because socialism, the control of spending, the control of money, the control of business, is going to harm them. And the only way they're going to be able to increase their economies after they equal the playing field is to allow more capitalism into the market, so that the competition can become even more fair. Because once the tariffs are fair, the only thing that's going to be holding down companies within other nations is going to be their own governments. It's their own regulations, it's their own taxes, it's their own burdens that's going to hold those businesses down. And when they start seeing those businesses are losing to U.S. companies, they're going to have to regulate or re-regulate so that they can have fair and equal competition. So the tariffs all around are going to help things exponentially, absolutely exponentially. But coming back to us, as that playing field equalizes, more capital starts coming into our nation, the buying power of the dollar increases, where we can buy more with the same dollar. You add to that controlling the printing of money. You have to control it. You can't just print money willy-nilly when you're in a budget deficit, which is what Biden did insanely and what Obama did. Now, Trump had a lot of spending, and COVID created a lot of spending during his first term, which was insane, but the whole nation demanded on it because everybody thought they were going to go bankrupt because we had fascists in the government, particularly on the left, that wanted to shut everything down, wanted to shut our schools down, wanted to shut our businesses down. Everybody had to stay home. If we had gone through any more of that, that would have completely bankrupted everybody. Everybody. And there was already too many companies that just folded their doors, closed their doors, and never opened up ever again. I mean, that would have pushed us towards government control and socialism more than anything else would have. And that's exactly what the left wanted to have happen with COVID. They wanted that control. They saw that was a gold mine. Let's abuse that opportunity and push this country really towards socialism, towards government control. Balancing the playing field is not, again, it's not the tariffs are balancing the playing field. It's what the tariffs will do that'll balance a playing field and increase the power of the dollar. It's not printing money that will increase the value of the dollar. And the last thing is our debt. The debt ceiling cannot keep getting increased because that depreciates the value of the dollar. When the United States is paying more in interest than they are for our defense budget, it is way too much debt. The country of the United States could go bankrupt if we keep increasing the debt ceiling and the national debt. People look at the national debt as it's not a problem. We have a big enough gross domestic product that it's just pennies. It's just a fraction of our GDP. Why are you worried about it? That's not how you look at it. Again, that is blinding people and telling people that it's okay. Don't worry about it. Look the other direction. We can keep on spending. It's a fraction what the U.S. has as gross domestic product. But they don't look at what it's doing to your own spending ability. Every single time the debt ceiling goes up, every single time they have to spend more money, the value of your dollar goes down. That means the ability for you to pay rent, to pay mortgage, to buy food, to buy gas, to buy utility bills, to go on vacation. Everything that you save up for now spends less. So that same gallon of gas is $6 a gallon instead of $3. That carton of eggs is $3.50 instead of $6. That is causing the problem. So again, getting a raise, increasing the minimum wage are not going to fix your debt problems, are not going to fix your buying ability as a consumer. So stop looking at those things as fixes. They're not going to fix it. Every single time the minimum wage goes up, costs go up. Everything goes up, and it just gets spread around, and it increases the problem. It makes the dollar worth less. Every time they print money, the dollar value goes less. Every time there's a trade deficit, the value of the dollar goes down. Every single time our debt increases, the value of the dollar goes down. And everybody wants to know, well, why is socialism becoming more and more popular? Because this is the plan. The left wants us to go socialistic. They want the U.S. economy to go down. They want us to deteriorate. They want the problem. They want the problem to be so bad that people demand that they fix it. You poor youth, they're coming out of college. I know you can't afford this. I know you can't afford a home. I know you can't afford to buy food. You need to vote in socialism. You need to vote us in. We'll fix the problem. The Republicans and their stupid capitalism is not going to fix the problem. It's going to make it worse. Capitalism is only for the rich, only for the powerful. That is a lie. That is propaganda. That is the farce that they're trying to feed everybody. Why? Because they want more power. They want socialism. And once socialism gets integrated, we lose our freedoms. You lose your buying power completely. You are then told what you can and cannot buy. And then only the elitists will be surviving and everybody else will be subservient. You will be the serfs that are there strictly to serve. Socialism is not the miracle that you think it is. It is pure evil. It is control at the worst level. The left is ingeniously pushing our youth towards it, pushing society towards it, because everybody's looking at their economic woes and saying, we got to redistribute wealth. There are too many billionaires and millionaires out there that are not helping us out. My money is not buying anything. I'm constantly broke every month. I can't even pay my own bills. I can barely put food on the table. This is not working. I need it fixed. As much as you need that fix, as much as you can't pay the bills, socialism is not the answer. It has never been the answer, never will be the answer. It is evil. You want to fix the problem, you need to demand more from your politicians. You need to vote in people that will bring freedom to the market, that will make competition heavier. Because the more competitive the market is, the more people have to drive down their prices. If there was 2 or 3 other companies competing with Microsoft for computer software, the cost of Microsoft would go down. They would not have that type of control. If there was more competition within our hospital systems to where insurance companies were not allowed to own a hospital group, or that hospital groups could dominate an entire state, like the hospital group here in Utah, IHC, there's a hospital group in Pennsylvania that just dominates the entire state. And there's no competition. You want to bring down healthcare costs, get rid of that. You want to bring down your insurance costs, turn health insurance into car insurance market where they have to be forced to go out there and advertise and bring in the consumer to come into them. Get rid of group health plans and health insurance and make everybody buy insurance just like they would car insurance. Force the insurance companies to compete. Force the hospital systems to compete. And once they start competing for the consumer, you'll be shocked at how fast healthcare costs come down. Shocked. You allow more grocery stores into communities and where they start competing against each other, you'll be shocked at how fast groceries come out. You allow the tariffs to make the competition around the world equal, then all that food that we import, all those costs will all of a sudden come down and your food will come down. And then the local farmers will be able to exist here within the United States because their costs will come down. And so your food prices will dramatically come down. If you let the tariffs work and our steel and our aluminum costs are allowed to compete worldwide, and all of a sudden our cars, our vehicles, anything that we use that has metal related, all of a sudden those costs are come down because those steel manufacturers and car manufacturers, aluminum manufacturers are then able to sell their products around the world at a fair competitive value to where they don't have to completely exist solely off the U.S. market. They don't have to have so many sales to survive within the U.S. only because they can't make any money in other countries. When the tariffs equalize that out, our costs at home here go down dramatically, and our goods go down. Because one of the things you have to realize is the United States is one of the biggest exporters of raw goods. But we're one of the biggest importers, bar none, of finished goods. So if we can export at a better cost and make more money on our export so that the finished goods now come back less expensive, we all benefit. Now you can go to Walmart and buy all those cheap goods coming in from China because all the raw materials that China's buying from us aren't tariffed so high. So they are forced to buy our prices at a better value, not competing equally on equal grounds with the producers of metal in their own countries, to where those companies within those countries buy from us, buy from their own people on equal grounds, but then they're going to find that we have better quality products. So they'll buy more from us, which brings the finished good costs down. So when we import those finished goods, you import the sheets and the clothes and the blankets that Walmart sells. You import the coffee maker. You import the toaster from China. All those little materials that those products are made of, the cost of the materials themselves all go down because the tariffs around the world were equalized and everybody dropped their goods, and so those finished goods can come in cheaper. The value of your dollar all of a sudden increases because there's more money coming in from outside in than it is just getting spread around from within our own borders. Everything improves. The only way to make that happen is through who we vote into office. You cannot vote socialism and liberalism into office. You have to vote in competition. That is capitalism. You have to have competing, and it has to be equal and fair competing. You can't have favoritism. You can't have a government that picks one industry or one business to survive more than the other. You can't have a government that subsidizes one industry and doesn't subsidize another. You got to get rid of subsidies. You have to let the equal and fair competition. You have to let the tariffs work to bring down worldwide tariffs so that we can trade equally on equal grounds with the rest of the planet. You have to vote in politicians that stop spending, particularly on social programs. Because by far the biggest expense that trounces all expenses within this country are social services. Everybody that's living off of Medicaid, food stamps, all these social programs are killing us. And it's not that there's people that don't need it. There are people that need it. But there is so much waste, fraud, and abuse in those programs, and nobody's willing to look at it because everybody's afraid that the second you start looking at it, you're going to start eliminating programs and taking people that need it off. You got to stop having that fear, and you got to let people like Doge go in there and clean out these programs so we can bring down those social service costs. There can't be any illegal immigrants on those social services, and millions of them are on there. Doge found it. We've proven that. Go ask Elon. He found over 5 million illegal immigrants on social services, and he was just barely looking underneath the hood. And the vast majority of those illegal immigrants that he found were also on the voter rolls and voting. And everybody's saying, well, illegals can't vote. They're not voting. That's a lie. There are too many people in here driving around Land Rovers and Porsches and still getting food stamps. There is too much waste, fraud, and abuse in those programs. And they have to be completely overhauled. Completely overhauled. Top to bottom. And you've got to have someone willing to let officials go in there and do it. But the left will never allow that. They will never allow those social services to be completely overhauled. Why? Because as we've said, video after video after video, they want the dependency. We just discussed this with Burgess Owens last week. They want the dependency. Because if they can get you subservient to them, if they can get you dependent on the government, you are now a permanent voter. They did it to the black community. They're doing it to the illegal community right now. They want the permanent voter. That's what keeps them in power. And don't be fooled. The only thing the left wants is power and money. And socialism will give them both. Socialism will give them both. And that's why they push for it. They are better than you. They know more than you. You are ants to them. And you will become subservient to them if you let that fester. And right now, it is festering amongst our youth. It is festering amongst the 20-year-olds getting out of college, working in college, that go out to the world and find out that they can't survive on their own. They have to live with mom and dad until they're 25, 26 years old, or they have to go out and get a bunch of roommates because they can't afford the home, they can't afford rent, they can barely afford food. And then they look to us and say, hey, I need a raise. I'm not making enough. I need minimum wage to go up. I'm not making enough. And they feel like those are the quickest, easiest solutions to the problem, when they will just make it worse, because all the employer is going to do is increase their costs. And it's just going to flow from one player to the other. It's going to flow from the power company to the farmer, to the fast food joint, to the gas station. All those prices are going to increase as they hand out raises and minimum wages go up and your buying power goes down. I'm going to repeat this. The only way to fix the problem is 3 ways. Let the tariffs work to bring worldwide tariffs down so we can have a fair playing ground and competition around the world where our goods can be sold everywhere in the world fairly and equally. It's not the tariffs themselves, it's what the tariffs produce that's going to increase the value of the dollar. 2, we have to stop spending. We cannot have all this foreign aid going to every other country in the world but besides us. We cannot have massive amounts of money going to these social programs with all the frayed waste and abuse that are in them. They have to be overhauled. We have to let free and fair competition permeate everywhere, particularly in our health system. Because out of everything that's out there, our health system is the least competitive and the most controlled. And that's why our healthcare costs are 3, 4, 5 times that of the healthcare costs in other countries, because there's no competition in it. We've allowed too many monopolies in the hospital systems and in the health insurance companies particularly. We have to control our national debt. We have got to stop increasing the debt ceiling and get the spending under control. And the last thing is, we've got to stop printing money. The printing of money is not going to solve the problem. All that causes is massive inflation. And the inflation is just a tax on the people because you can't spend enough money to buy everything. Those are the only solutions. That is it. Stop looking elsewhere because it does not exist. It will not exist. Stop fighting me on these points and thinking that socialism is going to work. That I'm just going to go to the next billionaire and take money from him and give it to myself and not having earned it or provided any type of value or service for that money. That's socialism. That redistribution of wealth will kill any type of growth we have. It just baffles me how many people think and fight with me, in my own comments, that I'm insane, that socialism is a solution. But yet we still have people voting people into office that all they'll bring to the table is more government control, more regulations, more socialism, and it's just going to make the problem worse. You're going to get poorer, you're going to buy less, you're going to be able to survive less, you're going to have less food on your table. It's going to be even longer before you buy that house. It's going to be even longer before you pay off that debt that you had from the university, or the debt you incur every single month because you can't even pay your own bills every month and you end up putting it on your credit card. This has been proven year after year after year after year. This is absolute science. This is true. Be careful who you vote for. And I particularly worry about you blue states because all you know is liberalism, wokeism, and socialism. And no matter what we say, you're going to vote for it anyway. You're going to fight us all on this. So I implore those red states, please just get redder. We've got to be the elephant in the room. We got to throw our weight around. And it's to make sure that our freedoms stick. It's to make sure that our children and our grandchildren have a home and can buy a home and can put food on their plates. Competition has to exist worldwide. Competition brings costs down. The value of the dollar, what it can buy, has to increase. And I know for a fact my comments are going to blow up. My comment section is going to blow up over the next few days because of this video. Too many socialists in my comment section. But all you conservatives out there, you need to get onto my comment section and start explaining the truth. And then you need to get out with your friends and your neighbors, and particularly your kids, and explain to them what freedom is, what capitalism is. Capitalism is freedom. You have to explain to them why socialism is evil and what is destroying their buying power. The government is destroying your buying power. When they let other nations abuse us with heavy trade deficits, when they spend money like it's going out of style, like they have a bottomless pocket and they can just do whatever they want, your buying power goes down. When they print money, when they can't spend any more and they just need to start printing and paying for it, everything in cash, your buying power goes down. When they decrease the competitiveness in the market and create monopolies, your buying power goes down. It is not the raise, it is not the increase in the minimum wage that is going to fix these problems. Only idiots, they have no understanding, zero understanding of what an economy does or how it works. And idiots that can't even punch a few numbers and do some math, what they can't figure out. Punch the numbers, do the math, look at history. It has to be free market economy, and it has to be fair. And fair is not redistributing wealth. Fair is not controlling and putting out regulations. That is not fair. Fair is letting the economy work itself out and letting one company compete with the other. It is getting rid of regulations. It is getting rid of favoritism in the least degree. The only thing the government should be there to do is to stop illegal activities from happening and to stop deception. When you have businesses purposely lying about their products, purposely deceiving consumers in buying things, that's what government is there to do, is to stop the deception, to stop the lying. They're not there to control the market or put in regulations. Regulations should not exist. Only laws to stop deception, to stop lying, those are the only laws that should exist. And there's only enforcement that should be out there. Everything Trump is doing is for our benefit. The tariffs are helping the United States. The deportation of all these illegals is helping the United States and our consumer. The deregulation of everything is helping us as a consumer. Getting rid of entire departments within the government, laying off all these government workers and decreasing the size and scope of the government is helping us as a consumer. Everything he's doing is going to help you as a consumer in decreasing the overall cost that the government has, to decrease our overall debt size, and give you more power within your dollar. I hope this hits home. I really do. We'll see everybody on the next video.